My name's Mary Beth, and I wanted to talk to you today about recovery from drugs and alcohol and my experience, strength, and hope in that area. I have had about 30 years of sobriety from drugs and alcohol, and every day, I think we all learn something every day, but every day I learn a little bit more, and I just felt like I kind of wanted to share that with other people. If there are any of you out there that are struggling with getting clean and sober and maybe don't know where to start, have a hard time going to 12-step meetings, maybe just haven't felt like you fit in there. I know it's kind of awkward and scary to go into a meeting with people that you're not familiar with, you don't know, and the whole thing is just kind of new, and you don't know where to start. So doing it this way, I feel like I can maybe be of help to somebody who just doesn't really know where to begin. So a little bit about myself. So at this point in my life, I may look like a middle-aged, which I am, middle-aged, pretty average-looking female, and I guess that's good in a lot of ways. I have a pretty stable life these days. Definitely not the case in the past, for sure. I obviously have ups and downs just like anyone else. There's challenges that life brings just like anyone else. Sometimes I feel like pulling my hair out. I am not a relationship expert, that's for sure what I've learned. However, I have been able to stay clean through thick and thin, through it all, and I honestly, literally do just take it one day at a time. So I believe I have, let me see, I honestly don't count the years. I literally just take it one day at a time. So I have about 30 years of sobriety. So I did start pretty young, and definitely the drugs and alcohol that I was doing, may not have been comparable to some other people that maybe have been homeless or have gotten into, living on the streets. However, it was definitely bad enough for me, and I was a miserable, neurotic mess. And I think one of the last friends that I had at that time, I was about 18 years old, told me that she didn't want to be my friend anymore. That was my last friend. And she said I was on Pluto, and that was her reasoning. And that was the last time I've ever talked to her. I had liver problems at that time. I did end up going to treatment, 30-day treatment, and when I was there, I didn't actually think that, I thought I was crazy. I knew I was absolutely miserable. There was no light in my life. There was no hope. It was very dark. I was very hopeless. I had a lot of pain inside. I was so isolated and lonely, and I really didn't think that there was any hope for me. I really thought that I just needed to be in either a mental institution or a psych ward, but I wasn't willing to go there. I just knew I was crazy, and that was just the effect that drugs and alcohol had on my life. I was completely unmanageable. I couldn't make myself go to appointments or meetings or school or anything that I needed to get done to be a functional person. I just couldn't manage to do it. I just couldn't seem to complete tasks in a responsible way. It just had a grip on me. It had a hold on my life, and everything was an absolute mess. Emotionally, mentally, I was starting to physically, with the liver problems, physically deteriorate. And I got into treatment, and I really didn't even know what hit me. Like I said, I just thought I was crazy. And so I was reading the Narcotics Anonymous book at that time, and it talked about the fear and the paranoia and the isolation and the loneliness that are effects of certain drugs for a lot of people. And I then started to relate and think, oh, okay, maybe it is the drugs and alcohol. Okay, maybe this is a result of the choices that I've made, which started out, in my opinion, as a fun-loving, innocent attempt to have a good time. I just wanted to have fun. I just wanted to be high. I just wanted to drink, hang out with my friends and party all the time. And it just bit me in the ass eventually. So I am definitely the kind of person who cannot hold her alcohol. I would drink, for a young woman my age, a half rack of beer was no problem. And that was quite common as a nightly thing. I also, I didn't really even keep track a lot of the time. I remember, drinking screwdrivers or just drinking straight from the bottle. I didn't really care. But basically, long story short, I ended up in treatment, and I'm so grateful that I did. A lot of the other people there, I think they just kind of thought it was a joke. They were, some of them were court ordered, some of them just really weren't as into it. I actually, when I started relating to the books that I was reading on recovery and realizing that, hey, this is what's wrong with me, this is why I'm so miserable, I started actually maybe kind of paying attention and thinking, okay, maybe I do have a problem, and maybe I'd like to get out of this problem and have a better life. I'll never forget my first AA meeting, and I went with the other, young people that were in the treatment center, and we were bused to an AA meeting locally, and there were some old-timers there, and of course, we're all these younger, most of us were adults, but younger people sitting across the room, and there was this one older man, and he kept scanning our faces. And I realized at one point while he was talking that he was, continuing to talk to me and a couple of the other kids that were sitting there. And he had the sparkliest eyes I have ever seen. There was peace and hope and light in those eyes. I had never seen anyone that had so much light inside of them, and it was visible, it was obvious, and I don't really remember anything that he said that day, but what I'll never forget is the light that he had in his eyes and the peace in his heart that was just emanating. So I soon learned that the word that they call that in 12-step groups is serenity. And this man definitely had that. And so I'm very grateful that he was there that day to share his experience, strength, and hope with all of us. Because if I hadn't seen something real and tangible at my first meeting, I'm not sure that it would have taken a hold in me like it did. And I realized at that time that I didn't know what that guy had. I didn't know exactly what he did to get it, but I knew that I didn't have that. It was dark inside of me and hopeless and scary and not fun at all. I was miserable. And I had decided at that time that I would do whatever I had to do to get what he had. And it's my hope for any of you watching that you too can make that kind of decision to have some hope and to cling on to that there is a better way no matter what, if you just hang in there and stick with some of the principles. And I'm going to continue to try to share my experience, strength, and hope, and just things that I have learned along the way, so that hopefully some of you can benefit from my experiences. Okay? So thanks for listening today, and I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you next time.